It's checking in with Anthony and Glenn, teaching you to be the hotelier that you wanna be. It's checking in with Anthony and Glenn.
Anthony, my man.
What are we doing in Vegas again?
We are in Vegas again. I got to tell you, from 2 weeks later, I'm going to be back here yet
Me too.
again.
What day are you coming back to Vegas?
Oh, yeah, we're going to be here at the same time.
That's right.
Yeah, so hey, this is Glenn Haussman. Of course, that's Anthony Melchiorri. And you're going to be coming into town for HD Expo to judge the box competition, and I'm going to be coming in to do some more podcasts with you.
Yeah, the box competition. We look at brown boxes and we say which one's better.
Right. I think Amazon does a great brown box.
No. Explain the box competition.
It is a design competition in the hospitality industry. I don't want to say with which company it might be affiliated with. It might offend a guest that's coming up any second right now. But it's a great opportunity for up-and-coming designers and established designers to create a brand new design. But it's the last second. It's kind of like, hey, here are your rules. Go for it. Then they go ahead, and folks like Anthony Melchiorri here and Bobby Burke of Queer Eye are hosting and judging the competition, and I'm looking forward to getting you and Bobby on the mic for our hotel design podcast.
Oh,
which will be
good
fun.
luck with that, brother. Because you are not going to be the low to me, because me and Bobby are just going to go.
That's a very good point, but at least at the end of the day, I'll get some great content. Talk about great content. I have Miss Janis Cannon with us, who's the SVP of Upscale Brands at Choice Hotels International, where I happen to be attending their annual conference, and Anthony happened to be in town, so we thought we'd have a little conversation.
Actually, I'm in town doing a keynote for that same company we talked about.
That's right.
We're not talking about.
Right, yes.
Thank God.
We will talk about that company at some point in the future, but today is Janis's show. Janis, great to see you.
Great to see you, Glenn.
So for folks that don't know Janis, I've known you for a while now, and I just love your spirit and your energy and this great new-ish, not too new anymore, challenge of running this upscale division. Maybe the best place to start is share a little bit about what counts as upscale with Choice Hotels.
But before we do that, can I go behind the curtain a little bit?
Oh yeah, please, baby.
So we walk into this room right now,
right?
And I first time I think I'm meeting Janis,
right?
And then she turns to me as she's putting her bag down and says, "Oh, I know you. You're the Hotel Impossible guy." So tell me.
So far, that's not anything new.
No, right. That's not new.
But tell them what is new. Tell them the story you just told me.
Okay. I remember you so well because the concept or the idea of a hotel show where hoteliers would allow you to come in and tell them what was wrong with their hotel on national television was quite innovative to me. I wasn't sure necessarily how that all was going to work out. But where I met you it was at the very first BLLA convention in Miami. It was actually in South Beach.
Boutique Lifestyle.
Lodging and
Lifestyle Association, and they do conferences.
Right. And so we were in Miami at South Beach, and we happened to be seated at the table next together. And at that time, I think you were working at Nickelodeon Hotels.
In Orlando.
Yeah, in Orlando.
So you'd come from.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the show didn't exist yet.
Right.
He only had an idea or a concept. So you decided that you would, I guess, like play it off on me and see, kind of what I thought about it. And so I remember you telling me, the idea. You said, I've got this idea for a hotel show, and I think it'll really go, and I'm going to be pitching it, and you're going to see me on television one day, and it's going to be great. And it's about me going into hotels that are in really bad shape, revealing all of the things that are wrong with the hotel on national television, and then telling them how they can fix it, how they can correct it. And I remember challenging you, thinking, oh God, who's going to let that play out on national television? Right. So when your show did come on television, I was like, oh my God, he made it. Good for him. This is really happening. It's a really good show.
So did you laugh at me behind my back?
No, I didn't laugh. I thought, I think it goes to things like even we had Queen Latifah at our convention here in Vegas on Tuesday. And, talking about just things like sometimes you just have to step through when no one else believes. You have to step in kind of like your fear or into your idea. And so actually I was a big cheerleader for you.
Well,
and I went around telling everybody, you got to see this new show, Hotel Impossible, because, this guy's really making it happen.
I must have felt that from you the first time I met you, because I didn't tell anybody about the show. Almost no one knew about the show. My friends were calling me, go, dude, why don't you tell me about the show? Maybe I'd say 10 people knew about the show. So I'm really surprised that we had that conversation, because I swear to God, you know why I didn't tell anybody? Because I don't want anybody to laugh at me.
Right.
That's why I didn't tell anybody. And I always tell young kids, I was like, don't tell people your dreams, because they're just gonna laugh at you, and it's not gonna give you energy. Talking about Queen Latifah, I was doing an upfront for Travel Channel, and she was having a new show come on Travel Channel where she went around the world and just kind of dance and kind of do whatever she does, right? And just gets to know the culture. And so she was there, and of course, it's me and Andrew Zimmer there, and Guy Fieri, everybody's in the room, and then it's Queen Latifah, right? So everybody's right near Queen Latifah, and she's speaking. And she's just talking to people naturally. And one of the things I'll never forget is she did not leave until the last picture was taken, until the last hug was given, until the last handshake was done. And she acted like she had nothing else in the world to do. And she's never done this before, and she's just glad that somebody recognized her. It was insane to me.
So you must have learned some lessons from that as well, because you're the same kind of guy, Anthony.
Well, I'd like to think I am.
Except your rap skills aren't as good, but
yeah.
Well, she made the comment too about the importance of being humble, and she used some examples of how when she started out, there were like production assistants and all, and she would watch how people would also treat not only her as the queen, but how they treated everybody else that was on her crew and on her team, from the people carrying the bags to the equipment. And she always treated people and believes in leading with humility. And she said sometimes she has referenced one scenario where a production assistant actually wound up as an executive director of a big movie, and of course they remembered, and who did they call to star in the movie but the Queen Latifah. So really, yeah,
interesting. I had the first day on set, or the first week on set, I remember, I didn't even know what a PA was, right? And we pick them up as we go. So we go with a crew, about 18 of us, and then when we go into the city, we pick up daily PAs. And I remember, for the first few days, no one knew the PA's name. They would just call him PA. They'd say, hey, go get us coffee. They said, go get us coffee. So I made it my mission to know the PA's name every single time and to use their name, and then insisted to everyone, it's like, it's not hey, it's not get me coffee, say good morning, know their name, thank them at the end of the day, and how dare you not know their name? Well, we're not going to know them in 3 days. It's going to be, it's like, but we know them now, and we never know if we're ever going to see them again. And regardless of that, who are we to come into their town and not even give them the respect of using their name?
Right.
So it's such an important part of, and I don't even think it's the hotel business that trained me to do that.
No,
I just think me as a good human being.
It's just the right thing to do in life. And I do a lot of speeches on the road now where I focus on thinking like an owner. And part of my whole philosophy is you can be really super selfish about your career and do the right things, and it'll actually move the bar forward. So that's one thing. You're thinking about the future of your career by spreading love, so it'll come back at you.
Something just happened. I walked into, I won't say what hotel, but a 5-star hotel. Yesterday, I was walking into the front door, and a gentleman, a doorman, walked right past me. I said, good morning, how are you? I said, good morning, how are you? And he's like, good. Right? I look like a crazy person to him. Then I get to the door, and as soon as I get to the door, the guy goes, Anthony, oh my God. He's the doorman. He goes, I love your show. He goes, you're never going to believe this. 3 months ago, they had 2 shows in training, Hotel Impossible, and they went through step by step of your show. And the first thing they told us about 10-4 and more, and how it's important to greet somebody 10 feet away, then 4 feet, and then the more. And it's like, we all learned that. And I was like, and I had to say, I was like, except the guy behind me who ignored me. But it was such a fascinating thing. Don't point to the microphone. I'm not talking to the microphone. I felt like you were a teacher speaking to the microphone.
Well, I got to be aggressive with this. You got to get good sound.
So it was just a fascinating moment in my life. Here it is that everything that I've learned and taught throughout my career, it didn't happen in a 5-star hotel. A 5-star hotel I happen to love. It didn't happen. And then 5 feet away, he made me feel like the greatest human being in the world. Not only did he recognize me, not only did he greet me and he seemed like a genuine guy, but he get the greatest compliment. They're training off of my videos.
Right, you made a difference.
So
you made a real difference, positive.
It's amazing. Yeah.
So you weren't concerned about copyright infringement with them taking all your stuff then?
No, Travel Channel might be.
Right.
I have to tell you real quickly one other thing that she said that really stuck with me as well, is she said all money is not good money.
Right.
Yes.
And I thought that was like a hugely powerful, insightful statement.
It is. It's interesting you say that, because like I'm going through that in my life right now, right? You go for the easy money or things that might compromise your values, and it's just not worth it, because at the end of the day, it's really about how you feel about yourself. And if you take that, it's not organic, it's not natural, and I think it winds up hurting you, not just psychologically, but financially in the long run too.
Yeah, and I think thank God in my life, I really haven't had to do that.
Yeah.
But I would imagine in a situation where you have a family, sometimes you have to, right?
Yeah.
And then when you do have to, it's not feeling bad about it, but just to make sure when you're in a position where money's not controlling you, that you're able to play it forward.
Right. I had a client and I needed the money, so I worked with him, but I didn't really ascribe to his value system at all, and it really just rubbed me the wrong way. And the whole interaction felt kind of dirty, but I needed to pay my bills, right? So it's a constant struggle that I think we all have as human beings is how to do that the right way and not to feel super gross at the end of the day, you know? Oh, so Janis, I want to talk a little bit about you before now, forget the choice related stuff. We'll get there. We'll get there. All right. Don't worry. We'll get all the talking points out. You got to make the PR people happy. You don't get in trouble.
And they're staring at us.
Yeah. But how did you wind up, your career arc? How did you get started in hospitality? How did you take this journey? Because a lot of younger people are very interested, especially with high echelon executives like yourself. How do you achieve such a position?
And to me, female executive.
I try to
I want to bring it up because in our industry, I sit in a boardroom with a lot of men.
Right.
And I want to know, because it's one thing for someone that's a man to come up and be an executive in this world of hospitality. But, how I would imagine there's a little bit more of a challenge for a female executive. But maybe there's not.
But I get the sense in this particular company, I've seen a lot more female representation in leadership roles.
But I'm just talking about from her career beginning.
So let's let you speak.
Yeah, okay, all right. Yeah, I'll tell you what I think, right, or what my experience has been. But first of all, I've been really lucky, but I've worked really hard. So I think that, there's opportunity and there's
hard
luck.
Work bring luck?
It does. And that's what I was just getting ready to say is that, so you have to be prepared to make the sacrifice, right? You have to be prepared to make the commitment. You have to have the passion for it, which I know, everybody talks about passion, but it's real. I mean, it's like in your DNA, and it's finding the thing that you really love. But for me, I started out, actually, when I was at university, I started out working at the Georgia Welcome Center at the Florida-Georgia state line.
Right.
Giving away Coca-Cola, filling brochure racks, providing directions into sites and places to go and things to see and all, and even cleaning the bathrooms, and you can imagine what that was like, cleaning toilets for people that, traveling the interstate system. But I wanted to be the best bathroom cleaner they had, and so I called it my IT day. I tried to make really motivate myself around that. If I had an IT day, it was going to be, by God, the best IT day that there was. So anyway, from there,
the moment you looked at the bathroom, you say, okay, it's going to be my IT day. Go back for a second. When you were a kid, the way you were raised by whoever raised you, your mom and dad, they had an impact on that. So how, when you were a younger person, were you raised? You had chores, you had responsibilities. Just for a second, go back there, because a lot of people talk about that moment. It's like, I just powered up. But it really goes back to the people that raised you.
That's so insightful, and you're so bang on with that, because I had my first business, which was a grass cutting business, a lawn service, when I was 9 years old, as a female living in base housing. And so what I figured out, again, going back to being a female executive, I would cut our grass because my dad would give me $5 for cutting our grass. And there was something, too, that was quite satisfying about it, because it was a project that had a beginning and an end. And at the end of it, you could really have a sense of accomplishment for what you had achieved. But people started seeing me as a young 9-year-old, blonde-headed girl cutting grass, and so they were, well, maybe she needs to cut my grass, maybe she can come cut my grass. And so our next-door neighbor, the Rosa Mirandas, I then started cutting their yard, and then I started cutting another yard, and then I started cutting another yard, and then I wound up with 2 friends that helped cut grass.
Wow.
And so it grew to be a little profitable business for us. But, my father being in the military, things like discipline and responsibility, they're so important. And, showing up and being a person of integrity and a person that really practices what lives true to your commitments and practices and lives that. So that's really, Anthony, what you said. When I go back, I think about my mom and dad, that we always had everything that we needed, but it was always associated with work, so that you did have that sense of confidence and that sense of accomplishment.
Well, thank you for sharing that story.
All right,
so I'm cleaning toilets at the Welcome Center, right? Yeah, and so then when
I think it's just good for everybody to know that you started cleaning toilets.
Yes,
I think it shows how far you've come and what you can accomplish.
Right. Yeah, and so from there, then I went to work when I finished university. I went to work for the Georgia Department of Industry, Trade, and Tourism. And I was a regional rep that had the responsibilities of the 29 counties in North Georgia for economic development. And so that's where I really learned things like began to have a holistic view about how business works and about economic drivers. And so even though I was very young, I had to understand things like what's the labor market, in this particular county, what's the site availability in this particular county, like how many, manufacturing facilities are here, or how many warehouses are here, those types of things. What are the energy costs here? What's the, just an overall economic development profile. And so what I would do is we would receive economic development investors or interest in coming to Georgia and planning a business in Georgia, what I would do is I would then review my portfolio of 29 counties and say, well, here's the right match for the perfume company out of France, or here's the right match for the auto manufacturer out of Germany, or here's the right match. And then we'd take them and, show them around and expose them to that and really let them see what Georgia had to offer from, as to provide that economic vitality. So from there, that's how I eventually got introduced to the hotel business, because I met some people in the hotel business and they said, you need to come across and, leave the public sector and come across to the private sector and see what we can do over here. So my first hotel job was I started working with United Inns, Inc.
With United Inns?
Inns, Inc. And they were the largest franchisee of Holiday Inns at the time. Yeah, so it was actually Holiday Inn. So I went to work for them and Dr. Cockroft, who was the master franchise holder. And then, that kind of started it from there. And then I went to my first job. I was actually a director of sales, in a Holiday Inn, and didn't know much of anything. But
what was your first challenge when you got your job and it hit you in the face? You're like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, first of all, I call it alphabet soup, because in the hotel business, like in every industry or every vertical sector, you have like your own language. And so what was happening is I started, we were being evaluated and our objectives and all were set against things like RevPAR, ADR, RevPAR index.
Like, huh?
Yeah, exactly. BT, business travel. I mean, it was just like all alphabet soup. So I think that was the first challenge. I know that might sound small, but it was actually a big thing, because it's about
everybody
gaining.
Still faces all those challenges and still can't figure it out.
Yeah, so it is. It's about knowledge, right? Being a lifetime learner and thirst for knowledge. And so, not being afraid to ask the question, not being afraid to. To dig out the information, to ask somebody else to really.
But where's that confidence come from? I know you talk about mowing the lawn, but I think that's really important for young people, especially I have 3 daughters, for young females. Like, where did that confidence come from to be able to just, I'll figure it out?
Well, again, my dad being in the military, we moved quite often. He was in the Air Force.
I was in the Air Force.
Oh, really? Were you really?
I was at
How
Whiteman
cool
Air
is
Force
that?
Base.
I was born at Lackland Air Force Base.
Actually, I spent
San
6 weeks at Lackland. I'm actually going there in September to do a
really?
speech. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, being in the military, we moved quite often. And I think that's you have to be, because you're constantly reorienting yourself to a new environment, a new set of people. You start to be able to read cues very quickly. You can you become kind of like almost like an ethnographic researcher about, the things that really, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you start to quickly assess things like, this is a good person I can go to, or I'm not so sure about that.
I learned those skills on the cocktail party. So.
Yeah, so I think it was that. And then I think, too, my father, it's interesting that you have your 3 girls as well, too, because on the one hand, it's a great story. On the other hand, it's difficult when you're going through it. But my father was always the type that, let's say I'd make, cheerleaders back in those days. And my dad would say, well, you need to be the captain. You can be the captain. Why can't you be the captain? Or I'd make a 98 on a test and I'd have the highest mark in the class, and he'd say, but why did you miss that one question?
Right.
You could
I'm proud of you for this, but you could have.
Right, exactly. Right. And so it was just, you hear about tiger moms today, like coming out of Korea and Japan and all of that, the tiger mom and the helicopter parent. It was different. I mean, I knew it came from a place of love, and I knew, too, that if he really didn't believe that, he wouldn't have pushed me that way. But because he really believed that, it allowed me to really be able to believe in myself. So in that way.
And I imagine you've become the leader that leads that way. You lead where you expect You're looking at your
I'm looking,
your PR people.
Look at the head. Yeah.
That
Head
I would
nod.
expect that when you're in the room, everybody knows you respect everybody, but everybody knows you better be on time and you better be prepared. And she's shaking her head. I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Diane.
Diane, you're the director of PR or?
No.
Brand manager, and she's sitting there shaking her head, going, "Yep."
Yeah.
But you just show up that way. It's like you're there to enlighten the room. You're there to power up the room. But the only way you can do that is to ensure that everybody's doing their job. And not that I'm a Patriots fan, but I love that Bill Belichick says, "Just do your job. Just do your job. Don't look over here. Don't look over there. Don't talk about that guy. Don't talk about that guy. Just do your job." And you seem very much like that person.
Well, I'll share a real quick story. This just happened. So we had a rehearsal for one of our brand sessions. And these are big, a lot of attendees. We're at our big convention out here in Vegas. And
so there are just to orient people, there are thousands of people here. There's usually a typical general session that has everybody at once. Then there are smaller breakout sessions for each of the premier brands or for whatever stuff you're trying to achieve.
Right. So we had a rehearsal for one of them because, like I said, it's big production.
Yep.
There's lights and teleprompters and big stages and all
like
that.
This
So
podcast.
just like this podcast, right? The three of us in a little hole, right? In a little meeting room. But anyway, we had scheduled a special rehearsal for somebody that wasn't able to make the formal or official rehearsal. So I walked into the room and we waited, and I could see the 17 production people that we also had there that had come just for this person. So anyway, Diane called him and said, Janis asked me to call you. We've been waiting about, 15 minutes, and where are you? And he said, well, I'm with the chairman of the board. And I said, and so she referred that, she translated that to me and said, yeah, he's with the chairman of the board. And I said, well, you need to tell him we've got 17 people waiting here, and he either needs to come on or we need to call it. So, one way or the other. So anyway, I guess he said something because 2 minutes later he showed up in the room. So even the chairman of the board, right?
And the chairman of the board should understand that everybody that was more important than he is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's, and people feed off of that. I remember I was in the meeting and there was a director of sales that disagreed with me. There was 18 people. I was the VP. And the mid-level managers, executives were there, and the director of sales, she was a wonderful person, but me and her disagreed. I can't remember what we disagreed about, and she was really mad at me. And I wasn't letting her get her way. I was like, no, I don't believe that. This is the way it should be done. I respect you, and I usually let you get everything you want, but no, I think you're wrong. And she kept on going. She started getting elevated. So there's two things about that. One, she's getting elevated, and I'm taking it. So that tells everybody in the room, it's like, hey, I'm open. Just keep telling me, keep giving me your points. So she gave me a point. I was like, oh my God, I'm wrong. She's right. So I said, what do I do? I was like, I'm wrong. You're right. I apologize. I'm sorry. You know what? I didn't see it that way. I think that's the way we should go. Thank you very much. And she keeps getting upset. She goes, she's stupid. Because how many times have you been in an argument with somebody and you say, oh, I'm sorry, you're right. You're right. But they keep arguing their point.
They call that marriage.
Yeah, they keep arguing their point. And you're a funny guy, but true. And I said, no, I'm not trying to belittle you or to move on. Like, I'm sorry, I'm wrong, you're right. I just literally powered my entire team to let them understand. It's like, yeah, even though I'm aggressive and I'm intense, it's like, if you have a good point, don't stop. Keep coming. I'm not going to yell and scream, but just keep coming at me. And as soon as you make your point and you fight strong enough, I'm going to back up if I'm wrong. And that was such a powerful lesson, not only to me and to the director of sales, but to, more importantly, the younger managers in the room that saw that you can have good discussions. Mm-hmm. You can have an aggressive discussion without being disrespectful to each other, and you can say you're sorry. The most powerful words in the English language is I'm sorry. And it's about being vulnerable. And I think one of the things that I've been successful because of some of the people that I've seen around me is that I realize that I don't want to be that person. I don't want to see that. I don't want to walk into the room and everybody's got the joke but you. I want to walk in the room and I want to get the joke. I want to know if I'm the joke. I walked into Nickelodeon. I know we met when I was in Nickelodeon. And I walk on stage. There's like 1,200 employees in the auditorium. And I said, hey, I'm the new vice president. And I never worked in Orlando. I never ran a pool. I never ran entertainment. I've never run 5 acres. I've never run, I think, rooms, we had 1,200 rooms. I've never run any of this. I've never run all this food and beverage, all the security, 100 lifeguards. I've only run up and down hotels in New York City. So who better than me to run your hotel? And they all laughed. And I was in on the joke because if I wasn't, I would have been making fun of him the whole time I was there. It's like, who's this guy from New York thinking?
Right. What does he know?
But I think that brings up an interesting point. As we move up in our career and we're thrust into new opportunities and positions, we don't know everything. We kind of have to figure it out as we go along. And I feel like I've been faking it for a couple of decades now, and if I'm lucky, I'll keep going. But, how do you act when you get into a new position and you're trying to figure it out, but you need to have, show confidence out there that you're in control and that you were the right choice for that job?
I had a boss early on when I was at Swiss Hotel, because we were talking about my career earlier. You remember Swiss Hotel? Yeah, it was great, owned by Swiss Air. Yeah, exactly. And so I worked with them, and I had a boss, Jorg Lapuner, who told me one time, he said, Janis, you also need to remember there's a first time for everything. He said, it's the first time to be a general manager, there's the first time to be a director of sales, so you're not going to know everything. Right. And that has always stuck with me all of these years, because going in, you need to know that you don't know everything, and the expectation is you're not going to know everything. So like the first time I was a general manager, which is actually when I was with Swiss Hotel, and I ran the Swiss Hotel Atlanta Buckhead property, I knew that I didn't know the boiler system, and I knew I didn't know the elevator room, and I didn't know all the things really around the building itself. And so what I did is I admitted that, like, before I even started, and I said, I really appreciate this promotion, this is great, but here's an area where I know I've got a big gap. So can you tell me who is the best chief engineer that we have, because I'd like to go spend 3 days with them, or maybe longer if it takes longer. So long story short, I went to Boston and spent some time there in the property with their chief engineer, who was great, and learned a lot. And so after I became a general manager, I started seeing invoices come in and seeing payables go out, and realized that there was something there that wasn't adding up, because I'd learned just enough about the mechanics of it to really be, able to be dangerous, right? To know the right questions to ask and the right things to look for. And so I found out that we actually had a situation where somebody was creating invoices for, parts and screws and all of that, and then was actually paying them as well. And so, it's just amazing how things work if you really are open to say, I don't know everything. Here are weaknesses that, clearly I have, or here are knowledge gaps that clearly I have. So, how can I resource that and get that information as quickly as possible so that it can make a positive difference?
You're the first person in my career as a general manager to ever say elevator room. It is amazing to me that general managers take over hotels and they don't know anything about the elevator room. And the elevator room, to me, when I was young coming up as a general manager, was really important. Because I want to know if somebody got stuck, where's the switch, how's it work, why does it work, where is it locked, who has the key? And I wanted to know that. And I was always like fascinated that people as a general manager, like you would walk around with them and I'm like, where's this and where's that? I don't know. So you don't know where your elevator room is? You don't know how to shut off the elevator? You don't know how to, in an emergency, manually pull up that elevator, even though we're not supposed to, the fire department's supposed to? You just don't have that knowledge? And I remember Ian, what was his name? It'll come to me in a second. He was my first general manager at Embassy Suites in Times Square. And we walked into the loading dock, and there was a compactor on the loading dock, and he knew everything about the compactor. And Drew Schlesinger, you may know that name, famous general manager in the city. And I literally just remember sitting there like a little puppy going, he knows what kind of compactor is. He knows how many gears. He knows how it works. He knows what kind of power it needs. I don't know any of that, and that's what made me believe that I needed to know all of that. But it's right there. If I know nothing else about you, okay, that you knew where the elevator room was as a general manager tells me everything I need to know.
Well, it sounds like you also have to have a good sense of curiosity to even think that way.
Yeah, you do. I mean, and it's. I've referenced lifetime learner. I really believe that. It's that, every day is an opportunity to learn something new and better ourselves, right?
I'm sorry.
It's curiosity. It is, and better ourselves.
Hey everybody, Glenn here. So listen to this. Cobblestone Hotels is celebrating their 10th anniversary, and man, have they accomplished a lot in the last decade. Already they have more than 150 hotels throughout the United States. but they're in smaller and medium-sized markets. Those markets that the big franchise companies, they're underserving, they're overlooking, and in some cases just ignoring. But Cobblestone is an expert in these markets. And their president and CEO, Brian Wagernes, listen, I've gotten to know him in the last 10 years, and he has worked every job possible, including being an owner and operator. I can personally vouch for how awesome this company is, how awesome he is as an individual, because he understands the importance of finding the right combination of hotel brand and franchise owner. He's also an incredibly dedicated professional. Whether it's a Cobblestone Hotel and Suites Main Street design, Borders Inn and Suites, or one of the newly acquired brands such as Boulders Inn and Suites, Key West Inns, Centerstone Inns and Suites, Cobblestone has brands that range from economy to upper mid-tier, and one that's right for you. Quite simply, Cobblestone Hotels is the franchise for franchise owners. Patrick Mullenix, well, he's Cobblestone's new president of franchise development. Give him a call or check out their website at cobblestonefranchising.com. But give Patrick a call. He's a great guy. I've known him for a really, really long time, too. You can find him at 920-216-0620. That's cobblestonefranchising.com. And tell him Glenn sent you.
It's curiosity, but it's also, I would imagine, I know for me, I never want to be in a room and somebody asks me a question that I should know the answer to. It's one thing I don't know the answer to because it's, I don't know the answer to everything, and I'm okay with that. But when you should. As a general manager, you should know where the elevator room is.
Right, and think about that. The title is general manager for a reason, because you're supposed.
I love you.
It doesn't say I have deep expertise in this one thing. It says I know how to read a balance sheet.
I generally
and I know
manage.
how to write, and I generally manage. Right? Yeah, I know what the taxes are. I know the below line stuff after GOP. Down to NOI. I know what taxes and licenses and those kind of things are and what they cost. And that's why I think it's called general manager, is because you have to have a holistic view to your business.
Yeah, and when you're able to walk into, and I think that's what helped me when I do my shows, Hotel Impossible, is I know a lot about a lot, but a little bit about, like, I couldn't sit with an accountant and have a 5-hour conversation with them. But I can sit with an accountant and go through P&L pretty quickly and get to the really hard. Matter of fact, I'm working with Cornell University, and we're doing a new course and called Special Operations. And I always felt like I was the special ops guy. If I was in the military, I'm a special ops guy, right? Where I go up on the roof and I make sure I take you out. So I always go around and I fix up hotels. I'm Mr. Fix-It. When in New York, I was Mr. Fix-It. So I look at the balance sheet now, and I don't look at like, okay, food cost is 22% or liquor cost or whatever. I look at that. What does that mean? Well, it means that you're looking. No. It means something else. It can mean 17 things. It can mean your food and beverage director's not showing up on time. It could mean that the liquor storage room is not locked up. It could mean 27 things. So we're putting a course together to look at a P&L differently. Right? And I just learned that by just asking the right questions.
I'm smiling because I actually was at Cornell. I've had the opportunity to teach there a couple of times, and I was there about 2 weeks ago. And so I normally teach consumer behavior and marketing.
Oh, wow. I was there 2 weeks ago.
Were you really?
Yeah.
I taught at Dr. Chun's class.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
I used to teach consumer behavior and hospitality at NYU.
Hey, how about that?
Oh, we're so special. We're so smart.
That's right. Yeah, wow.
Someone's got to say, because no one's going to call me smart. I got to do it myself.
No, but I do an eCornell course right now called Build Your Personal Brand. And I when I got up on stage and talked to all the Cornell students, I said, when I applied here for my master's, you wouldn't let me in, but you'll let me teach. There's something wrong with the school.
But I have to tell you too, though, as a hotelier, as a person that's been in the industry for a long time and really loves the industry, I am so proud of the students and the breadth there, like the international, how broad it is in terms of, and what's going to happen, like in the future. They're curious, they're thoughtful with their questions, they're highly educated, they're cultural, they're regionally sensitive, they're socially adept.
The most
it's like
amazing.
when you go, you can't help but feel like, oh my God, our industry is set for the next, 75 years for sure, based on the quality of talent that's there.
I was so inspired by them. I remember I had dinner with the senior class a couple of years ago, and I asked apparently the silliest question I could have asked. I said, now again, I'm from Brooklyn. My dad died when I was 2. We'd had no money. I went in the Air Force so I can get out of and make a life for myself. And I remember asking this senior class, I said, how many people have been to Europe? Nobody raised their hand. You know why?
Why?
Because it's a dumb question. It's like, you're asking Cornell kids if they've ever been to Europe.
Right.
It's like, we've been to Europe like 37 times.
Right.
We're from Europe.
Like, not only we're from
We actually
Europe.
live there. Yeah.
Okay, so
He needs to get us back on track.
I
So-
do because we're already running over time that we were allotted, and normally we could go on forever. We've had really long
She has
interviews.
nothing
but
to
we
do,
are-
she told me.
Right, but we are at Choice Hotels annual convention. You did grace us with some opportunity to talk to you today.
Thank you.
Maybe just real quick, tell us what your management philosophy style is now that you're leading this upscale division, and then we could talk real quick about the brands themselves.
Well, first of all, building the upscale division for Choice is been fantastic because Choice right now in the mid-scale space is 1 in 4 hotels, and overall Choice in the U.S. is 1 in 10 hotels in the economy and the mid-scale and upper mid-scale territory. And so for us to really grow and continue to build, our next 80 years of success, upscale is really where our opportunity is. So we've launched the Ascend Collection, which is our collection of unique, independent, and boutique properties.
Which was the first soft-branded one to hit the hospitality industry, and I don't think you guys get enough credit for that.
Thank you very much. Exactly. It actually created the category. So
And the
all
District
compa-
Hotel in New York City is one of my favorite hotels.
Is it really?
And I think
Yeah.
it was your first one, wasn't it?
It was one of the first, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great property right there off
I
Times Square.
built the one right next door to the State Bridge Suites.
Did you really?
We built it at the same exact time. We were actually, your opening day and my opening day was the same day.
I can't believe that. Small world, right? We've got the Air Force together. We've got Cornell together.
I told you my deep dive secret about
right,
Hotel
you told me
Possible.
that before it ever. But so anyway, and the other brand that we have in the category is we're creating Cambria Hotels. And Cambria Hotels has had great success. It's a brand that we've designed for the modern business traveler. It's the modern business traveler that's time-starved. Like we all are. We've all got time poverty today, you know.
You literally.
And these our guests, they're like always on. And so what we try to do is we try to give them a few seconds that they can then package together that gives them back the gift of time where they can do something that's really important and really meaningful for them. So I'll give you an example. We are redefining currently the definition of nightcap. So nightcap used to be about, let's come back from dinner and I'll go to the bar and have a drink and, and maybe not feel so good tomorrow for our business meeting. But that's changed. And so the definition of nightcap now is about a variety of different things. For some people, it's a relaxing bath with aromatherapy. For some people, it's milk and cookies. For somebody else, it's, it may be a craft cocktail or something. So that's one of the examples of things that we're doing that at the end of the day, when these crazy business, crazy busy business travelers are able to have a few seconds to be able to relax at the Cambria brand, they're able to indulge in have these little luxuries and these little indulgences like the modern nightcap. Something else that we do is we have local craft beer is a big part of our offering as well.
I love this program.
Yeah. So even if you can't, again, get out, because let's say you arrive, you go to your meeting, you've got a dinner, and then you're out the next morning onto your next destination or onto your next trip. What we've done is we've brought into all of our hotels a minimum of 5 local craft beers that are on tap. So you can get a taste of the neighborhood and the community. And so in a place like New York or LA, it's not beers that are brewed within LA. It's like if you're in El Segundo at the airport at LAX, it's beers that are brewed within the El Segundo area. So it's really cool. And then we have even a little coaster program that goes along with it. And so which is part of our Choice Privileges program. And so you get these coasters that are really nice, and you can collect those, and it reminds you of the places you've been and the different beers that you've had, and really puts Cambria on the map.
Right, and Cambria should have 50 hotels up by the end of this year and 100 by 2021. So it's great to see that the engines of this brand are finally kicking in the early days when it first debuted, right at the dawn of the Great Recession. It was a challenge, but now you guys are really, really moving along. And I like what that brand stands for and how important it is for Choice overall to start to own this upscale segment. What does it mean for the company going forward? Well,
it's really important because we've got this great universe of travelers already. We've got like 40 million members that are part of our Choice Privileges program. And a lot of times when they're first starting out their careers, they may be staying at a Comfort Inn. But then, as they move up and they become a director or whatever, and they move more into like the kind of that middle management type of space, we didn't really necessarily have a brand in the upscale space where those customers wanted to go and stay with Choice and continue to grow with Choice. Same thing with our developers. We have a lot of developers, actually. One of my favorites is Sagar Kumar. His family, when they immigrated to this country, they had their first roadway in Midland, Texas in 1964. And now they're building the Cambria in LA Spring Street downtown. Wow. So it also gives an opportunity for families that are, own hotels to also be able to grow their portfolios and not have to look for, maybe another company. So it really, our guests love us. We see that. We're on TripAdvisor. We've got over half of our hotels are in the top 10, and many of our hotels are in the number 1 position. As a matter of fact, our New Orleans Cambria is number 1 in the market and has been for 7 months on TripAdvisor out of 191 hotels in pretty much every brand you can think of and every independence there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing the power of the guest today. And people ask me when TripAdvisor came up, how'd you feel about it? The day it came out, I loved it because it allowed me real conversations with my guests, and it allowed me to really see how we're doing. But the power of our guests today gets directly to us, and I really think it made us better. I think I haven't stayed in a bad hotel in a long time, not because I get to stay in the fancy hotels, but I stay in a lot of mid-scale hotels when I'm doing business. And it's just, I don't think people really give the guest enough credit. It's like they've been very vocal and they've let us do our job better. They've been very honest with us. And I think if you take it from that perspective, and I think if you take it with an open mind, I think it makes you better as a hotel, as a company. Like you mentioned, it's like you're number 1 on TripAdvisor. That's important to your company. And that's not TripAdvisor, that's your guest telling you that.
Exactly. And what it does, too, from an innovation perspective, it also allows us to really understand what are the differentiators, what are the things that they get at our hotels that they don't get anywhere else. So by reviewing text analytics, we get a lot of really rich insight that we can then convert into, either brand hallmarks or brand standards or those things that are really going to matter for the guests long term. One of those, I'll give you an example, is in our spa-inspired bathroom, we started putting Bluetooth mirrors in. We had not yet made it a brand standard at that point. And you may think Bluetooth mirrors, that's not a big deal. But when you look at text analytics, it's like the number 1, as you go through and start reading TripAdvisor reviews and you see what people are talking about, because people can play their own music, they have their own opportunity, to really customize that experience that's way that's best for them.
There's a very nice young lady standing behind you with her
Yes.
finger in
Now,
there
she's
going
the
like
PR.
this.
She's with PR.
Right, she is. That's Mercedes.
They're the ones that rule the world.
Yeah, that's Mercedes.
Mercedes is absolutely wonderful, by the way.
Come over here. No, she's
She's
just
wrapping us up.
All right,
Okay.
so we like to end all of our shows, and I'd love to have you back on because I feel like we only covered the first part of your career. We got so much to go.
And we didn't talk about the question I asked, but we'll talk about that next time.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next time. I'd love to have you back on. But we always like to end each show with one question for each of us. Tell us something that we don't know about you.
What you don't know about me, my husband and I raised Black Angus.
Really?
Yes. That's another story for another day. Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
That's almost as shocking as someone the other day told us that they wanted to be a nun.
Yes. Yeah. I think this is more of a delicious option, though. I want to talk to you all about marbling.
Where do you raise
exactly.
Black Angus?
That's what it is. North Georgia. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How's the Black Angus business today?
It's really good. We're not, I can't sell them commercially because I love them too much and they have names and all, but we're in the seed stock business.
Okay, Mercedes. Yeah. Okay, you know what? We're going to give Mercedes respect. And we're not even going to do our part.
We won't do our stuff. We're going to wrap this up right now. Janis,
I'm afraid of Mercedes.
She's going to let us do this one last thing, though. Give us a good shameless plug for everything that you're doing at Choice Hotels.
Stay at Choice Hotels. It really is. And try the Cambria brand and the Ascend collection. They are best in class, and just I think you'll really love the experience.
And
that
the
you have there.
Ascend collection District Hotel was the #1 hotel in New York City for many years. I haven't looked to see where it is now, but it's one of my favorite hotels in New York City.
Awesome.
Great.
All right,
Thank you.
We're
Thanks,
wrapping
Glenn.
it up.
Thanks.
Whew, that was exhausting. I hope I don't get yelled at by Mercedes, but everybody, thanks for checking in.
It's checking in with Anthony and Glenn, teaching you to be the hotelier that you wanna be. It's checking in with Anthony and Glenn.